So my phone ran out of memory last night while I was making that video. On my way to go grab some food here, I figured I'd continue a little bit. The moral that I'm getting at is when you exert self-discipline, and pardon my arrogance, but I'm just being real with you guys. When I observe the average human being operate, they're not in tune with like that inner voice at all. They don't believe in it. They don't think anything's there. They're not listening for it. I think it's something you really got to work towards when you're really young. You know, Isaac Newton was super religious and super self-disciplined. So was Tesla. So was Einstein. And a lot of them believe that the universe actually reveals ideas to you if you're worthy, where you exert self-discipline. It's all about proving yourself with self-discipline. And in my life, when I have the feeling that no, this isn't right, whether it's, you know, a hot chick and avoiding sleeping with her just because I know it's not going to equate to much, or whether it's a business, I'll just give you a for instance, and you can think I'm full of shit, but there's plenty of witnesses to this. Back in 2008, I bumped into Les Wexner, and he knew who I was, he knew who our family was and everything, and I bumped into him and, you know, just said hi to him, and he had his posse of machine gun trucks behind him, with all the guys with Uzis and everything, and he was in his Audi RS5 with his son, and his son was like 10 or 13, somewhere in that ballpark if I had to take a wild guess at the time. But anyway, the point is, I mentioned to him briefly about my website idea and my business idea, and I asked him about kiosks at malls because he's associated with the outdoor malls, which is Steiner Group. And he's like, let's do this. He's like, I want to hear more about this. He's like, call this lady and tell her to set up an appointment for you, Yarmir Steiner, and Les Wexner. Les Wexner told me to do this. And so I called the lady and I set up this appointment. But he and I talked for like 45 minutes, and I kept trying to let him go. And he's like, I want to talk to you, Brandon. And so he understood that I was onto something. He's a very sharp fellow. And he actually started out leasing cars originally, when you ask him kind of where his career began. But the point is, and I used to do business with the vice presidents of like the Limited and Victoria's Secret and their chief financial officer and all these different people. I've been to some of their houses and stuff. It's a long story, but the point is, I wasn't really well acquainted with Les Wexner, but he knew who I was. And this was our first time like really conversing. And he, I guarantee you, had better things to do than talk to me for 45 minutes, and he sat there and talked to me and wanted to. Like, I kept trying to like be polite and cut it short and say, you know, we'll talk soon. He's like, I want to keep talking to you. So the guy is extremely intelligent, and that's the difference between the average human being and somebody who's made it in life. Is the people who made it in life know that nothing is more important than a good idea, and that has their number one focus. Whereas other people, they're all like, you're a nobody, therefore your ideas have to be nothing, da 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 da. And that's where you guys will never be wealthy. Because why would anybody ever split a company with you, or split shares with you, or anything, or offer you a stake in a company when most of you are just negative Nellies? And so you're never going to get on the ground floor of anything, because you all think that if a person hasn't made it yet in life, they're never going to make it. So anyway, so I've kind of had this feather in my cap since 2008, 2009, whatever year it was, when he and I chatted about this. And I actually did a rain check on the meeting, because once I scheduled the meeting and I was exerting a ton of self-discipline of should I meet with them or not, or should I first pursue this on my own, that's when I came up with one of my really super revolutionary ideas. And I called and I said, listen, I still want to meet with you guys eventually. One day you guys will get first dibs to meet, and when I finally come up with the idea, I'll honor my word and I'll meet with you guys first, which I still haven't done because I haven't released the idea yet to anybody. And I was like, but I got to go to the patent office and file some stuff. They said, sounds good to us. This is over a decade ago. So, meanwhile, so I was following my gut. Now I want to be very clear, and I don't want my words misconstrued or twisted, what I'm about to tell you. So there's a spectrum. for Les Wexner's involvement with Epstein. There's a spectrum. Either they were just business friends, and then Epstein, goes off the deep end and starts messing around with young girls or whatever, and that's not Les Wexner's fault at all. Okay, that's one end of the spectrum, and then the other end of the spectrum, I'm not even going to go there, but you get the idea. Is he's involved. The point is, even if we're at the best end of the spectrum, that Les Wexner and Epstein weren't, Wexner wasn't involved in this stuff, right? With Epstein. Even if we go to that end of the spectrum, I want you to think about what would happen is if I was business partners with Les Wexner and I came out with something that generates potentially more money than eBay and Amazon. I know you can all roll your eyes and say, oh, this guy's so fucking crazy. That's fine. We're gonna see one day who's crazy. Okay. Okay, but the point is, I wouldn't be in a good spot right now. And I wouldn't be in a good spot because in general, the world is very corrupt. Take Les Wexner out of the equation. The world is very corrupt. And people in high places put other people into jeopardizing situations. And even if I was hadn't done anything wrong, and Les Wexner hadn't done anything wrong, can you imagine for a second what would happen if it was Epstein, Wexner, and Brandon, and I was linked to this because I launched my website with Wexner's involvement, okay? Because this is before I knew anything about Epstein. I knew who Epstein was, but it hadn't started, I didn't know the negative stuff yet, we'll just put it that way. So, now, fast forward again to this Russian girl. So I had this fairy tale version of my mind about we could unite America and Russia, and this is all before Donald Trump came along, and it was we could unite, Russia and America, we could do this big thing. I launched these big websites, and I'd be an advocate for peace, and so anyway, I knew all along that I was against certain elites' agenda, in the world. I could see that things were going on with wars being stirred up potentially and people running two sides of a team and stuff like that, because I was very aware about 9/11 when 9/11 happened. I could see through it. So something in my gut told me that this Russian chick would be capable of being a person where I could exert my rain check with Wexner and say, here's our battle plan for Russia to get this business going over there. Here's our battle plan in the US. And I know a bunch of other hot chicks, and so do you, sir. And I'm going to use these hot girls as they're clean girls. They're not tattooed up. They're very clean, beautiful, gorgeous girls that I know from all over the world, basically. And all sweetheart people, looking to get into real businesses, all this stuff. So I had this network. And so I was ready to go. And when I used to go to the club that I was talking about last night, I got to the point where it's I wanted to bring my computer into the club so that I could be the Napster guy who invented Napster and MySpace and all this shit, and sit there and work on my patents while I'm in the club. Because it's I just like the music. I like the and I had this big dream that I was going to be this, big multi-billionaire guy, whatever. And little did I understand this whole time while I'm making these crazy requests at the club, they start thinking I'm a cop. They think I want to bring my fucking laptop into the fucking club so I can bug the girls or something. Neither here nor there. So they start getting super paranoid about me, or it's just a front because the owner potentially was getting jealous because the girls that liked him liked me. The girls that he liked often lived with me. So it started to become this weird conflict of interest, and I was super polite. I wouldn't step on his toes. If I knew he was with a girl, I would not pursue her. Even after she broke up with him, I would not pursue her. I would shut him down. There was that girl I was talking about last night. I shut her down hard. And he was cool with me. I'm not complaining. Thank you. he never was the one who said you're not allowed to come back, but I started to get the vibe that it was him who had the problem with me. But to their defense, I realized what happened. It was the Talia story when I asked Talia, hey, have you ever wanted to be in the CIA? Because I was just making small talk because I was going to segue into, well, if you wanted to do that, I've got something that's more fun that doesn't have to do with government shit and we could all become really wealthy. Like this YouTube channel, and it's going to segue into these websites and stuff. And I've got this idea for a reality TV show with my business that I had going on, and but we could kind of make it out like we're kind of like above the law or whatever. How like Steven Seagal used to do, like where he alluded that he was in the CIA and shit. And that's where I was trying to take the conversation. Well, it didn't get that far because she got really weirded out when I said, have you ever wanted to be in the CIA? And I was just feeling her out because I thought, for all I know, this chick's in the MI6, because Talia was also like the Russian girl where Talia was gorgeous. And so anyway, and by now you know that all the girls in these photos are gorgeous.
There you go.
Thank you. You guys busy today?
Not too bad.
Tonight you will be, right?
Yeah, sure. Friday night, yep.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
So while I thought this Russian girl might belong to like the other team and was sent to spy on me because of apparent connections that I have and the way that I live life and the stuff that I write on Facebook, I realized that even if she is for the bad team, she's very intelligent. Like I could just sense her intelligence. She would pause and think about things before she'd speak. And other times she would answer so quick and so witty and with better choice of verbiage than I even choose to use. Like she's very fucking intelligent in certain ways. Linguistically, she's all there, okay? She knows multiple languages. And in school she was good at engineering because her dad was an engineer. So she was taking like drafting classes and stuff. I mean, this chick is all there. So, and when you see what she looks like, I mean, she looks like Trump's wife or something along those lines. Like she's all there. So, so I was like, well, I'm going to push this Russian girl away because it's just too much. But even though I pushed her away, which I did, I was like, you need to go marry somebody else. I can't marry you. I shouldn't. The conversation didn't even come up. I just wanted to blow the whole thing because I was like, if I start sleeping with this chick, it's bad news because I was so attracted to this girl. And so I just blew it up and I'm like, just get away. And not that she ever made those offers, but anyway, so then later I shoot her the text about children and different things, the compliment. And next thing you know, we're hanging out again. And maybe I'm wrong, but from my perspective, she changed. And I'm not trying to talk bad about her. There's a lot of, and again, I have no evidence to this, but even birth control, if a girl's on birth control, and again, I have no evidence to any of this stuff, it changes the way people think. Adderall changes the way people think. So she felt like she was behind in life and wanted to become a success, but wanted to do it like in the blink of an eye. And so we were running around doing like real estate stuff together. It's a long story, but and my other business stuff, we were just, and I wasn't moving at a fast enough pace making her money, which is fair. It is what it is. But in my opinion, she started being like nasty, rude, and neither here nor there. So I snapped on her because my gut says you just need to get rid of this girl. And we've communicated since. We're fine as far as, cordial communication goes and everything. But you say, okay, Brandon, so your gut was wrong and or you blew it. My gut, I firmly believe, it was very healthy, me spending the time with her that I did, and also her kind of keeping me distracted in the back of my mind for years, where I didn't want to pursue anybody else, because it caused me to realize the same criticism I have of her. Like, she thinks she needs to be with somebody who's already successful to do big things. She didn't have the confidence that her and I together could do big things. Like, she didn't like my ideas. She always thought I was like off in La La Land. She was very like focused and very like down to earth, so to speak, in certain ways, which is fine. But she just didn't have the imagination I thought she did. And I think that has to do with maybe substances, because they, neither here nor there. Again, I'm not saying she does anything. I'm saying even prescription pills mess with people. Because she's very sober like me. I'll just put it that way. But the point is, the same thing that I was trying to convince her of, I realized that I myself was guilty. I thought that I had to have the right chick by my side to move forward with my stuff, because I was always scared of having a girl want me after I become famous or wealthy or whatever it is. And then it's like, how do you know if they really like you or not? Now they're just after you for your money. But hindsight, this whole thing has been a blessing in disguise, because if you create something with a girl and then they break up with you, they're getting half at least, right? It's a no-brainer. And it would have been a big messy thing like Jeff Bezos' divorce and all this other stuff. So, and not only that, but, and I'm not trying to talk bad about her, she's still a top of the food chain girl. Our imaginations fill in gaps, especially when there's language barriers. Our imaginations fill in gaps, and we say, we fill things into the positive, hoping that someone's someone that they're not. And so with her, once that ended, that business relationship ended, her and I, was like a few years ago. She was on the YouTube channel, her voice was a few times, but that channel's down now. But we were driving around together. She was the girl that was at the McLaren store with me. That was her voice. I haven't had the desire since her to pursue anybody else, because frankly, most people are still below her in my book. And I just started to realize that my desire to pair up with one of these girls went much further than just sexual attraction and finding a good mom. I had this whole dream world created where without the proper girl, I can't move forward with my businesses. I want the girl already by my side who's going to be with me, because I felt like that'd be a stronger bond in the long haul. But all these things created delays, and all these delays have allowed both myself and the rest of the world to see the agenda of the elites, which is hyperinflation, basically tyranny, COVID, all these different things, assassinations, people like even President Trump being taken over. Like, if you don't understand that President Trump is no longer his own free will anymore, he's taken over. And he was all along. He just didn't know it. But all along, they knew he wouldn't go up against New York and the Federal Reserve, because that would bankrupt the banks of New York if he went up against the Federal Reserve completely, like Kennedy was threatening to do. So Trump has never been the guy that he said he was, because he just couldn't be. It was as counterproductive for him and his own businesses. So now he's getting away with everything, with all this crypto coins and everything. So he's on their team now. They're getting a cut. He's part of the game now, in my opinion. So it's really made me realize that the hill that I thought was a steep hill is actually like a straight upside down climb, an upside down cliff. You know what I mean? It's like what I thought was a steep hill is actually an upside down cliff to scale. So expecting anybody, whether it's the Russian girl or anybody, to keep up with this goal, okay, is ridiculous. And it's a ridiculous expectation for me to expect of other people. So I've just been really meditating on life, like what's really important based on the current state of humanity. And when you realize, like, if you're a person like me and you're doing all this noble stuff, not sleeping with all these chicks, worried about tomorrow, worried about the future of humanity, worried about these website processes, worried about all these different things, that the elites and their agenda are trying to go the opposite end of the spectrum of what this website does. And once you show the world this website, everybody's going to lose their minds, okay, once they see how this thing works. I just basically have taken every bad moment as kind of like a blessing in disguise. And I realize at the end of the day, I'm still not famous. I'm still free. I can still do my own thing. And I'm still, not married and divorced from somebody. I'm still not, associated now with, Wexner and thus Epstein. It's like everything that everybody told me I was nuts to put on the back burner because my gut said, this is a test. This is a temptation. And there's a better way to operate, a more logical way to operate, a more self-disciplined way to operate. Every step of the way, my gut would always say there's a more modest way to behave that will yield. It's like the marshmallow test. You'll get a better reward in the end if you resist this temptation situation. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if a billionaire wants to meet you for lunch, that it's a temptation situation, you should go hide in your closet. What I'm saying is, when your gut, when that thing that gives you truth, which gives you the good ideas, says, you need to wait. You need to get this patented first. Here, I'm going to give you a really good idea. You need to not have lunch with Wexner. Instead, you need to get this idea patented, then have lunch with Wexner. And then as I'm creating these patents, these patent diagrams, I realize, holy shit, I've just completely reinvented the internet, basically. And once the public sees how this works, they're not going to want what they currently have anymore. And I'm aware that blockchain makes all these claims. That's fine. You guys are going to see something soon, eventually, if and when. So my big debate has been, do I try to retain ownership of this whole thing, or who do I split it with? What happens if the world bankers and elites want to be my partner? Do I let them be the partners, or do I try to set something up where it's only the masses own the company? It's just... But when people act like idiots, it makes me play devil's advocate, and that's when I just do the barking, the verbal yelling of, you scumbags. If you had any idea what it is that I'm trying to lay on a silver platter for you guys, and you guys actually know who I am and know that I'm not a dumbass, you know that I figured things out with the Corvettes before anybody else, so there's a little bit of evidence there that I'm not a dumbass. I have better things to do than walk around and bluff that I've got these big websites when it's a known fact amongst my family and different people that I do have these processes, that I have been working on them, that I have all these diagrams of how it all works. The point is, when people are disrespectful to me, when I'm trying to make the Corvette world better and or the world of commerce better, and instead you pieces of shit who want to belittle me and you're nothing, you're a liar, you have nothing fucking better to do than try to take a shit on somebody who's trying to make your world a better place. You're a fucking idiot. So the point is, I play devil's advocate, and I'm like, I can see why the world leaders don't like you guys. I can see why they don't like you guys. You all sit there and play victims of, these guys are evil, and they're doing this, and they're doing this, and they're doing this. How do you know they haven't been creating profiles on all of you, and how do you know that anybody who wasn't worth a damn wasn't tapped before 9/11 and said, you don't want to go to work tomorrow? On September 10th, they got a tip from somebody. Hey, Brandon, we like you. You got a job at the World Trade Center. You shouldn't go to work tomorrow. And then you realize shit happens, and it's like, notice how all the assholes, how the World Trade Center was less than half staffed. Notice how the people who nobody liked all went to work, and the people who everybody liked didn't go to work. You don't understand what the world leaders, the true world leaders behind the scenes, not the President Trumps, but the real world leaders, you don't understand how smart these guys are and how far ahead they think, because you can't think that far ahead because, relatively speaking, genetically speaking, you're a fucking squirrel. So rather than me expose these guys as evil, which is what What's-His-Face was doing, Charlie Crick, whatever it is, Kirk, Charlie was starting to go on the offense against the Zionists. And there's not a better place to go on the offense about Jewish people than in Salt Lake City, because you don't have any Jewish people in Salt Lake City. It is, I mean, there are some, don't get me wrong, but in general, the Mormons, a lot of the History Channel specials written by the Jews would predict that the Antichrist is going to be Mormon. And in my opinion, that's a logic gate where they came up with that, because the Mormons actually hold themselves to a higher standard of behavior than even the Jews do. That's my observation. Whereas the Jews will say, you know, money games and getting the best of somebody in the market's fair game, the Mormons in general aren't even like that. They don't even think like that. So if you're worried about somebody showing you up and saying, you're not that righteous, Mr. Jewish elite, odds are it's going to be a Mormon. I mean, there's a good odds there that it'll be a Mormon. So they were very scared about Charlie getting into his speech. So you have what everybody's going to know is a planned assassination, where you have certain people ask key questions, bing, 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 and then fire. And then you have people on the lawn saying, and I'd do it again. I'd kill him again, even though that wasn't the killer. They had it all figured out. And I knew this when I heard that somebody on the lawn said, and I'd do it again. I was like, this is all planned. They've got the whole thing. This is an intelligence operation. Before it was ever even announced that Charlie had died, I already knew he wasn't going to make it. Even if he went to the hospital and was going to be stable, he wasn't going to make it. And that's a whole other story for another episode. But the point is, just because I'm driving around in a van and I play modest and I speak openly about things, I'm one of the most honest people you're ever going to meet. I'm one of the most people who's willing to tell the truth and not be scared to tell the truth of anybody you're ever going to meet. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm up there. And I'll also tell you the truth why I don't think the world leaders need to be sharing full truth with you. Again, along my whole journey, when I'm going to the club and doing all these things and working on my patents, all of a sudden my mind wants to talk about gravity. And by the way, that's something that Epstein was into also, wanting to solve gravity. And obviously immortality is the other thing that you want to solve. I've been highly compelled on multiple occasions to go talk to Les Wexner about processes that I believe are viable that work towards making us live much longer. And he would be the person to talk to, because it would be an opportunity where he might be able to go back to being 30 years old, like the mice at Harvard, where he would be able to get younger. Neither here nor there. The point is, those of you who ask what this channel is about, welcome. That's what this channel is about. It's about everything that you could ever possibly fucking imagine that's interesting to me. I'm not a fan of stupid people. A stupid person who claims to be your friend will cause you more damage than a smart person who isn't your friend. That's enough for that episode. See ya.